Good evening, everyone. I'm Juju Phillips, and this is Bears Talk Live. Indoor version this week as we come indoors here at the American Honor Ale House, bringing you our Week 10 edition of Bears Talk Live. And this week, exciting show coming up. We have football to talk about. We have basketball, men's and women's basketball. They have a big weekend, both the men and the women coming up. And, of course, with football, it is the season ender, closing out the season this week against rival Catawba. Time to bring in head coach Mike Kellar. And Coach Kellar last week losing to Carson Newman 42-28. Let's throw out some positives first. Early on in the game, the Bears got some opportunities with turnovers, but had to settle for some field goals. At the time, did you think that might affect the outcome?
No, not really. I mean, we knew that the ball was going to have to bounce our way a little bit going that game. You know, when you go into a weather game, which we've coached and played in, you know, all too many times, you know the key to the game is you're going to have to take care of the ball and hope that, you know, the other team doesn't take care of the ball. So the game started, you know, they made a really big play, third or fourth play of the game. They run the option, and the kid goes around the right edge and goes for a long touchdown, and we're down 7-0. We get very good field position and end up coming away with a field goal. So we were able to make it 7-3 right away. Our defense was very opportunistic, caused some turnovers, was hitting them. I think we have a pretty good plan against Carson Newman. Our kids have played against them so much, and our coaches have coached against them that we kind of know how to, you know, play them or have a decent feel on how to play them. And, we were able to get some field goals early, and then right before the half, you know, Nelson breaks the long run. We were messing around with some different formations, thinking that if we could get their D-line shifted a certain way, that we maybe would hit something up in there. And fortunate enough, it worked just the way we had hoped. And I was glad to see Nelson, you know, pull away for some people at the end. So you go in the half up 20-13, and you've weathered the storm of their big plays, and you've actually weathered the storm of the actual storm. So, I thought at that point things couldn't have been any better for us.
You know, we've talked about this team growing up and still a young football team, and you've talked about the process. There's also a process of learning how to win the close ball games. Has that been the case for LR at times this year?
Sure. I mean, the first thing, I think about our turnaround at the last school I was at, and the last 5 years I was there when I came in as the head coach, that was as hard as the first 5 years as the coordinator, and seeing the turnarounds that are the strides that we made. Early on at those years, if I think back to the early 2000s, we had to learn how not to lose football games before we could learn how to win games. Then you start winning some of those close games, and then your team believes in that, and they become accustomed to winning. And they go from thinking they're going to lose to, hey, we can win, to they expect to win. And that's how, established programs are able to be so consistent and win those types of games week in, week out.
We saw last week some big plays for the Bears. You mentioned the big run by Nelson Brown, but also the special teams with Kyle Duggar had 18 total tackles, named the South Atlantic Conference Special Teams Player of the Week. But you were talking about we had been expecting Kyle to break some big punt returns and not have any penalties. We saw that last week.
Well, he's got to be as good a returner as there is in the league. I mean, I know if he's not, there's no one I would trade him for. I mean, he's strong. He runs through tackles. He's fearless coming up and catching it. And then he's got open field speed when he does break. I mean, you can see he's a legit athlete. He's an all-conference type of performer. I think 2 years ago he was freshman of the year. Last year we really hurt us not having him back there this whole year. You and I talked during the offseason. I really thought long and hard about moving in the receiver because he was a guy who we felt if we get the ball in that guy's hands, the more we got it in his hands, the better off we'll be. And he's had, I think that was his fourth punt return actually this year for a touchdown. The other three, unfortunately, were called back. So he's had a lot of opportunities. We've had some crazy things happen. I asked him after the game, I said, when you scored, what's the first thing you did? He said, I turned around to see if there was any flags. I said, when you broke, that's what I was looking for as well. But, no, he had a phenomenal game. You said he had 18 tackles. I know it felt like he was everywhere. I mean, he plays that free safety, and he enables our defense to take some chances and do some things because he could erase the mistakes back there.
And, of course, the Bears last week, and as we talked about, with LR playing some of those close games. Now you turn around, season coming to an end. This week as you get ready for Catawba, before I ask you about Catawba, the message this week, knowing that the players, with possibly a victory and going out into the offseason, with some momentum. Is that part of the message?
You always get what does your team have to play for? Everyone's playing for the championship, the conference championship, chance to make the playoffs. And as soon as those goals get eliminated, everyone wants to know, well, what how are you motivating the team? What do they have to play for? Teams don't look at that. People who play sports play for each other. They got a lot to play for, in my estimation. They got each other to play for. They got sending in this season the right way to play for. They got the seniors that are going to have their last football game to play for. They got a rivalry game against Catawba to play. And if you're an athlete, we play 3-on-3 pickup basketball at noon. You're trying to win. So those kids, we just had a 2-minute drill right before I came over here in practice, and it was lively and it was spirited, and both sides were wanting to win it, and so you can, if you're a competitor, each time you put on, the helmet, you got a lot to play for.
And of course, Catawba, right at the top of the conference, ranked in the region, biggest rival the Bears have had. It's one of the longest small college football rivalries, not only in the South but in the country in terms of small schools. I want to say 96, 97th time that they played each other. Used to play each other 2 and 3 times a year, way back in the early 20th century. But as you look at this game, do the players think about playing a team and have a chance to spoil their season?
Sure they do. I think this will be the fourth or fifth team that we'll play this year who is ranked, in the top 10. Wingate's number 1. I think West Georgia's 2. Carson Newman's like 8, Catawba's 6 or 7. So, this will be the third, possibly fourth playoff team that we'll play, this season. So, our team would love, nothing more than go down there and win that game and send our seniors off with victory and start our off season with some momentum and spoil what Catawba's trying to get done. It's not going to be an easy task. It's a very good football team. They're very skilled. They got 2 excellent tailbacks. Tight end's phenomenal. They got a very good quarterback. They're good up front. Their D-line and linebackers are the best that maybe we've seen this year, and that's saying something because we saw 3 or 4 other very, very, very good units. The 3 of their 4 starting linebackers we faced last year. I think Kitchens was Player of the Year 2 years ago. And their secondary is good. This is a very, very good football team that we're about to go play.
When do you start reflecting on the season? You think back to a year ago, going into the Catawba game and where the Bears are and where they are right now in the building of this program. Talk about that.
Well, you compare and reflect, daily on it. You try not to. You try to always look forward and think about what's next and stay the course, stay with the process. If you watch tape at a certain time or run so many plays per practice, you want to stay in those routines for your team because it tells them what you're doing now is the most important thing. If I am reflecting, I do think we're much more improved. Last year I thought we lacked team speed. I don't think we played well as a team together at times. I didn't think that we always competed the way we wanted to. Those were huge goals for me personally coming into this year, and we've accomplished them all. We had Wingate, who's number 1 in the region, on the ropes. This past week we were up 28-21 against Carson Newman, thinking we were going to win that ball game. A year ago, even though we won Carson Newman, those were games that weren't even close. Marshall beat us 49-6 2 years ago. This year we felt as if we should have beat them. Pembroke's beat us by, I think, 24 a year ago. This year we should have beat them. Now, they've dropped a lot, but still we felt we should have won that football game. We're a much, much better team. I hate that we only got 3 wins. I know that's what everyone looks at. It's really it's a lot of what I look at as well, but it's not telling the true story.
Coach, as always, good luck on Saturday. Thanks for joining us. We hope to have you back next week. By the way, we're going to be moving Bears Talk Live from Wednesday nights to Tuesday nights starting next week. So come back and wrap things up talking about the Bears' victory over Catawba. Again, Saturday's game kicks off at 2 o'clock. We're on the air beginning at 1:30. Head coach Mike Kellar, fans, give him a hand. We're going to switch up gears and switch up sports and welcome in the head women's basketball coach for Lenoir-Rhyne. Let's give a hand to Cameron Sealey. Coach, I have a whole list of questions to ask you, but first off, what's it been like your first-time head coach at your alma mater? What's it been like so far?
It's been an awesome experience. I mean, I love Lenoir-Rhyne. It was a great 4-year experience for me in school, and then actually getting to come back here and lead the group of girls we have, and be in the gym again, be in Shuford, and experience Midnight Madness, which was an awesome start, awesome environment to get the fans excited for the year. So it's been a great experience.
You take over a program that went 17-12 last year. What kind of team do you have coming back as you head into the start of the season later this week?
Yeah, I mean 17-12. That was a very productive year, and we have three starters coming back from that squad, and they all have experience. But other than that, we kind of drop off from there, and we have 2 people who hadn't really started ever, and they're about to start on Friday night for us. And then we have a bunch of youth coming in. You know, if you look at our roster down the line, we look experienced by having 4 seniors, 4 juniors, but those upperclassmen haven't got tons of experience actually on the court, but they're about to have a lot of experience come Friday and Saturday night because, we have 4 games in 6 days. And so I keep telling them, with those 4 games in 6 days, we're not going to get a lot better when it comes to the basketball stuff, but mentally and the experience, we're only going to get better in that aspect.
The Bears were picked 7th out of the 11-team South Atlantic Conference going in. What's the league going to look like this year from what you've heard so far?
Oh, geez, the SAC, man, they're always good. I respect the SAC going in. I've coached in the Peach Belt, which is in our region, and I've been at 2 Division I schools, and the top schools in the SAC I'll put against any of the Division I schools I've been at. I think you got Wingate, who always is going to represent strong in the SAC. They're always going to have really good players, led very well by Coach Hancock. And then you got Anderson, who my assistant, Coach Simpson, came from, and they kind of came on strong once they entered into the SAC from the Carolinas Conference. Carson Newman just put up 76 points against Tennessee last night. They gave up 121 though, and then that's probably the top 3. And then you're gonna have Lincoln Memorial, reigning SAC champs, who are gonna come in strong again with only losing really their 2 post players. So it's gonna be a tough game every single night because you just have Coker, who was ranked below us, and they put up over 50 points against South Carolina, national champs. So it's gonna be a solid effort every night in the SAC.
Before we talk about your opener coming up, or your openers, I guess, the weekend, some honors for some of your players. Maddie Sudreth, one of your upperclassmen, all preseason South Atlantic Conference. Talk about what you think Maddie, her importance to this program in your first year.
Maddie possibly may be one of the most natural athletes I've seen come out of this area, and I have the privilege to coach her. But she continues to amaze me with the shots she makes, the plays she makes, her basketball IQ, the demeanor she carries, and the confidence. And we're trying to just build her with that. And I think her getting all-conference honors is only very much deserving because of what she put in last year and then the work she put in this summer. She has had a very successful preseason for us, so I expect a very, very productive year for her, not only scoring but also elevating her teammates, because she has such an impact on the game, not only in scoring but in assists and rebounds, steals. So it's going to be a good year for her.
You're going to find out a lot about your basketball team in a hurry, as you talked about. Friday night, playing at home, Saturday at home, and back home again on Monday, I believe, before going on the road next Wednesday. What's it going to mean, these 4 games in these 6 days? Talk about some of your opponents and what you're going to be looking for from your team.
Well, Barton, they come in, and Barton and Mount Olive, we play them back-to-back within 12 hours. We'll finish one around 10:30, and we'll play the next one at 10:30 a.m., and Barton and Mount Olive, neither one lost more than 10 games last year. They both had very solid seasons in our region and in their conference, and they both returned some really good players. Barton returns an all-conference post player who averaged 18 and 10. We're going to have our work cut out for us on that one, but we'll start Marie Ritchie at the 5 on Friday night if all goes as planned, and she is very much up for the challenge, and I think she'll counter her on the other end, and I look forward to seeing how she does there. And then Saturday morning, Mount Olive, they're good. They go 4-out-1 lineup, and so we're going to have to be ready to defend that. And then we got Chowan and Winston-Salem State both coming to it. Well, Tawan coming to us on Monday and Winston-Salem on Wednesday. And I've just told them we've been through too much in the preseason. We built you guys up mentally tough, and that's where the toughness is going to show. Who's the tougher team in those games right there?
When you look at your basketball team and you play these 4 games in 6 days, are you more worried about your opponent or maybe worried about how your team performs?
We've been focusing on us, and we went into our last scrimmage and focused on us because ultimately we don't know who's going to be playing for Barton, who's going to be starting. We don't know the starting lineup for Mount Olive. And then when we get into Tawan, we'll be able to see them play one game, but we're really focused on us because Mount Olive and Barton, they don't know what we're going to do. And I'm like, let's be really good at what we plan to do. Let's be really good at our game plan and execute that. And that's our game plan going in, is being good at what Lenoir-Rhyne does.
Again, Friday night,
yes.
And again on Saturday. Quick turnaround, right?
Yes, sir.
As always, good luck.
Thank you.
Hope to see you back here. We'll be back. We're going to move our show to Tuesday night, so
yes, sir.
You'll be able to join us on Tuesdays for the basketball version of Bears Talk Live. Head coach Cameron Sealey, everyone. Give her a hand. Thank you, Coach. Time to bring in the head men's coach is Everick Sullivan joining us tonight. Coach Sully, last week joined us right after the Bears had just a few days after they had knocked off the Citadel. And they have not played since then, but they do open up the regular season. They go back to a place that the football team, and we were just at a little over a week ago, down to Pembroke. Coach, welcome back to Bears Talk Live.
Thanks, Juju. Glad to be here. Got a great crowd tonight. I don't know what you do. You're giving out prizes or something? Great.
We are. Did you bring any with you?
I just came to get.
Hey,
but it's a good night.
Yes,
Looks like
it is.
Great crowd.
Great crowd. I'm glad we're indoors as well. There was we had some controversy. Maybe we were going to be outdoors tonight. I don't know if you could have hung with that or not.
I wouldn't have been here.
Okay.
It's cold. The cold is coming, and that's how you know it's basketball season. Great time of year. You don't want to be out. I hate it for Coach Kellar. As it gets cold, it's hard to perform at a high rate for my guys outside. So I've always been an indoor sport.
Hey, what's it been like coming off that win over the Citadel? What's practice been like? What kind of impact has beating the Citadel had on your basketball team?
If you would have been at practice today, it's not been good. Our practice tonight wasn't the greatest, but we do have some momentum. We do have some things to look at to gauge where we are, where we're trying to get to. And we're just continuously trying to figure out who we are. It's so early with 9 new guys. We're not sure what our identity will be. Will we be an inside team, an outside team? Will we shoot threes, press? There's a lot of different ways we can go, and I think that's the strength of our team is our versatility.
You talked a little bit last week about defense and rebounding. Is that still one of the key focus areas?
That would be our staple. We will go into every game, each and every night. That would be a key. That would be one of the keys on the chalkboard or on the dry erase board. Defend and rebound. That will keep us in the game. So not knowing if you're going to make shots, not knowing who's going to give you 20. I wish I had a guy like yourself, probably your college days. You could just put 20 in the scorebook. And then you could just
days too.
I'm not sure who's that guy for us. But we could be balanced. Back when I was playing at Louisville, we had 5 guys average double figures. And I think those type teams are just as hard to scout as a team that has 1 or 2 guys averaging 20, 25.
You mentioned 9 newcomers on the team?
Yeah. Well, 8. But Darius Simmons didn't get to play. He's a redshirt freshman. So he's new. He don't know what's going on yet.
Hey, give us a few minutes of some of the newcomers. Introduce some of the newcomers to the viewing audience.
Well, we got 4 transfers. Bertrand Awana from Cameroon, 6'8", 6'9", really athletic, played well against Citadel. I think he had 20 and 13. Corey Thomas is a junior college transfer from Louisville, Kentucky. Awesome talent, very smooth game, trying to get his motor to catch up with him, but it's so easy for him. I may be asking for too much, but he had, I think, 16 in that game. Also, we had Jabril Diallo. Jabril is from Guinea. Awana is from Cameroon. So we got 2 guys that are international, along with Philip Lescovar, who's returning, who's from Slovenia. So we got a little bit of everything in terms of our mix or our makeup. And then we also have Emmanuel Wimby. Emmanuel Wimby's from Catawba Valley Community College, right here in our backyard. He's another one of our front court players. We got 3 guys about 6'8", that gives us depth on the interior. Recruited a great group of freshman players. R.J. Gunn out of Irmo High School. He's a great talent. He'll be a great plus for. He's a freshman, but he's got the potential to be an impact player for years to come. And then we got Tyson McClain, Luke Bagby, Davion Branford. There's so many guys I can't even remember them all. I mean, I'm calling guys by different names in practice, so you're asking me to
I understand. I understand. And some upperclassmen, some guys you're going to count on, too.
I know those guys. Those guys are bringing back the scoring punch for us. Reed, Lucas, average right at double figures. Jarvis Calhoun, average right at double figures. And Billy Bales, along with Phillip. Now, those first three were the glue for us. You know, they'll be the glue. They'll be the core of our team this year. They really make threes at a high rate. They play with a tremendous amount of energy. They're leaders. They're also our captains. So you'll see those guys go out before the game, and they'll be the pulse of our team. They'll be the blood that makes us go. But we'll need the other guys to add to the mix if we want to be good.
Hey, last year, walking in, taking over the program, you had to introduce yourself and your philosophy to the guys, and you got to know them and they got to know you. Are you more comfortable your second go-around this year?
Well, I was talking to someone today, and they said the first year you figure out all your mistakes and what you can and can't do. The second year you correct them, and then the third year is the year where you really, you can just sit back and kind of watch it work smoothly. So I'm in the correction phase, but first I got to know the team. I got to understand what our strengths, what our weaknesses are. We got to figure out how to play to those strengths, hide our weaknesses, and at the end of the day, we want to be the team on top. So I'm excited about that. I do not know it all. I do not know everything, but I am continually learning every day and learning about each individual on that team.
As you coach now in your second year, reflecting back after your first year, what are some things that you like to do better as a coach?
Well, you can't be stuck. I think it taught me last year, you may have to change. So I had an idea of us playing really up-tempo, playing really fast, pressing, but as my numbers dwindled and we were only playing 7-8 guys, I had to adjust the style of play. So I learned that sometimes in coaching, the best lesson is you got to be flexible. You got to be able to think on the fly, adjust what you think you are to what you really are.
That's very good. And as you look at this team right now, and I know it's really early, you enjoy coaching this squad.
Yeah, I like them. I like their personality. We talk about who we are. I think we're unselfish. I think we compete. We play hard. And we play together. And if we add the smartness, and some days we're smart, some days we're not very smart. We had 23 turnovers against Citadel. My teams do not turn the ball. We were number one in the sack last year in the least amount of turnovers. So we're trying to continue to improve in that area. But playing together, playing hard, and playing smart, if you got those three things, you have a great foundation. Talk
about the tournament now coming up this weekend, the doubleheader Friday and Saturday, and the kind of opponents you guys are going to be playing. First, UNC Pembroke.
I don't know who did the scheduling. I got an assistant on our staff that put together a schedule, and it was a schedule that we wanted. We wanted to challenge guys. When I was at Louisville, we played UCLA, Georgia Tech. It was nobody. We figured if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. We're going to play some of the better teams in Division II in the South Atlantic Conference anyway, with Queens, Lincoln Memorial, Wingate, Catawba. So why not continue to just schedule good teams? And you figure out a way to get those wins, and it will position you in a way that you may be able to get an at-large into the tournament. So we start off this Friday with UNC Pembroke, tournament team, returning 4 guys that averaged almost double figures, 2 all-conference, finished first place, tremendous rebounding team, interior force, big guys, physical. And they played 3 exhibition games. In their last exhibition game against Northern Iowa, they lose by 6 points. So we have our hands full. But we're locked in. We're excited about the challenge. That's the one thing I think my guys will do. They're going to compete, and we're going to fight to the end. So we're excited about hitting the road and going down to see what we're made of.
Do you know anything about Francis Marion?
Don't know much about Francis Marion. I do know that they beat UT Chattanooga earlier this week. I'm not sure what type of team UT Chattanooga is, but it's probably just as impressive as us beating Citadel. So you have 2 teams that we're going to place that very high-caliber Division II basketball programs.
And then, of course, the South Atlantic Conference you mentioned, good a league right now in the South or in the region. In fact, having 2 teams in the top 10, I think, ranked preseason. What's the league going to look like this year? You guys are picked 7th or 8th in the 11-team conference. What do you think the SAC's going to be like this year compared to last year?
It's no doubt. The SAC will always be at the top of Division II basketball. That's not even questionable. You don't even have to, you're going to have 3 teams. There's probably going to be into maybe 4 into the NCAA Division II tournament. That's a guaranteed lock just because of the strength of scheduling within the conference itself, but also outside of the conference. Lincoln Memorial played a tough Bellarmine team last year, and I'm pretty sure other teams that go outside of the conference to schedule really tough opponents, just like we'll play when we play UNC Pembroke and Francis Marion. But, the rankings came out, and I think they're close. I mean, you could go Queens 1, Lincoln Memorial 2, or you could go vice versa. Both of those teams have a great core of talent coming back, well-coached programs. And each night is a battle. I mean, it is somewhat the Big Ten of Division II basketball because you got a lot of different styles. But the one thing that you must bring is the physicality. You must be able to compete. And a couple of my colleagues told me you got some grown men in that league. In the South Atlantic, you have some grown men.
Coach, it's going to be fun this year watching, and we're going to enjoy every minute of it and hope you can come back again next Tuesday, talk about a couple of victories maybe.
Juju, when I come back next Tuesday, I'm going to bring you gifts, and I may bring the fans that come out to support the show some gifts, all right? So you can mark that down. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Coach. Head Coach Everick Sullivan.
Thank you.
Again, before we go, don't forget the men's soccer team will be in the NCAA playoffs as they are back in action on Thursday. That is tomorrow in the first round. I had some notes about that. I have to throw this out there. Did a little bit of preparation. Young Harris College, based out of the northern part of Georgia in the mountains. Now, I don't know anything about their program or their team, but I do know this. They have a couple of very famous graduates. One of them is country singer Ronnie Millsap, Trisha Yearwood, and two famous baseball graduates, Nick Markakis, who plays outfield for the Atlanta Braves, and probably one of the leading candidates for the National League Most Valuable Player, Charlie Blackmon. All played at Young Harris. They come in 11-3-2. Don't forget it's tomorrow at Gaffney High School in South Carolina. Limestone is the host. The Bears are the 5th seed against the 4th seed. And should LR win, or when LR does win, they will go up against the number 1 seed in Limestone. Again, that'll wrap up our show. Don't forget football this weekend, soccer tomorrow night. We thank you for joining us. We'll be back again next Tuesday, switching up the night from Wednesday to Tuesday. For the entire crew here, the crowd here at Bears Talk Live, I'm Juju Phillips. Till next week, good night, everyone.